Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. By the way, I had a great time last week out there in San Francisco for an excellent event. Not San Francisco, New Orleans. We just talked to a guy from San Francisco. Got that in my brain. I do a lot of business trips out to San Francisco, it seems, so I have it stuck in my brain. But great trip to New Orleans with the folks out there with GrowCo. We accumulated a lot of interviews, a few dozen, in fact, and we'll be running those here on the station in the weeks to come. Props to our friends from Sound Telecom to help make that happen. But speaking of props, I always like to get into my good friend Kent Batman, and he is a leader in the energy industry, both from an environmentally friendly perspective and in a economically smart perspective, which they do over there at Vichem EcoFluids. That's VichemEcoFluids.com, VICHEM. And Kent, always a lot of interesting stuff going on news-wise. I had a great conversation with a policy expert on Friday, and we talked about, what in the world's going on? We're seeing an unusually moderate, in my opinion, Barack Obama on several different fronts, proposing cuts on Medicare, not taking some of the draconian EPA stances we expected him to take immediately upon his reelection, even taking a tougher stand militarily in North Korea than I thought we would ever see, although I would argue too little too late. But it's surprisingly moderate, in my opinion. And I had a policy analyst on. It was Steve Beeman, in fact, with the Beeman Group. He was on yesterday, and he said, well, let's face it, he needs to get as many Democrats elected to the U.S. House as he possibly can. Being the radical we both know that he is, would make it difficult for him to happen to really get his radical agenda done in his last 2 years. What do you think?
Well, that's all I can come up with. I've done the same thing. I've looked at this new guy, and he's nothing like, the Barack Obama we've had for 4.5 years, and it's scary. And the problem is he scares business. So even though he's being moderate in a lot of ways, we haven't seen the EPA concerns that he implied earlier. I'm still looking at the oil field, and the guys are drilling heavily, but still they could be doing a lot more. There could be a lot more money going into the oil patch if there were not a Barack Obama as president.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think there's a big amount of fear that they're going to find themselves overcommitted to certain projects that they're not going to be able to make economically viable once those regulations come down the pike.
Yep. Or that he'll make a change and shut down the rigs that they have. But, on a different front, Kevin, we're seeing, the oil field perk up all around us. I just looked today. There is some fields being bought up by a company, and I got to look them up against First Titan Energy or something, where they're buying some fields in Hardin County, which makes me excited. My backyard, home of Texaco, by the way.
Well, what you need to do is get your shotgun and go around in your backyard and look for some rabbits to shoot for dinner and see if some bubbling brew comes up from the ground.
Yeah, that would be fun, except because I don't have the mineral rights. So, Jed had a slightly better situation owning the mineral rights.
That's right. Oh, I see. So, yeah, that's right. Back in the day, they don't make it as easy anymore, do they?
No, they don't. And besides that, with the technology, again, Spindletop hit in 1901. Then, they started drilling all throughout East Texas. Hardin County was a big one. Texaco was started in Sour Lake, Texas, which is in Hardin County. We had another oil boom 30, 40 years later in some of the same fields as they learned that there was oil right next to where they drilled. Now we're finding, of course, with horizontal, there's oil and gas all around those places, and we got all these opportunities to hit it if we run the well sideways. So I think we're going to see another East Texas oil boom that I doubt if it'll rival South Texas or West Texas, but still it could be fun for us.
Yeah, well, and I think that'd be a great area to have some fun, no question about it. Back on my earlier point, though, something else that I think kind of lends to it is that the left doesn't have any problem beating up on their president. We saw that a lot the first 4 years of Obama, even though when he was acting radically hardcore in the opinion of conservatives. I have heard nothing but crickets since this guy's gotten reelected, making me think, that the Slate, websites out there and the Huffington Post and the Salon are pretty sure what we described is going to happen.
Yeah, I can't figure out the the left. I heard somebody on Fox yesterday, liberal, saying how mad she was at Obama because he was making these moves to the center.
Yep.
I'm not sure I believe her. I just, I don't believe anything they say now, Kev.
Yep. Yeah, it's a weird situation. The left, and of course, you understand they don't understand us any more than we understand them.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's like saying they don't understand math and we don't understand philosophy. There's a little difference there. One can be proven.
Yeah, no question about it. So, tell us a little more about Vychem. Tell us about the great work that Vychem's doing, not only ecologically but economically.
Okay, well, Vychem is that make biodegradable drilling fluids that penetrate the ground at the same rate as oil-based mud. So they don't have the cleanup problems you have with oil-based mud, but you do get the rate of penetration. And there's a lot of benefits that come from the MHA system, and you can find out more about those on VychemEcoFluids.com. And I hope to be telling you that we will be drilling like crazy all throughout East Texas and hopefully back up in the Marcellus, West Virginia and Pennsylvania here shortly.
Yep. By the way, that scenario you talked about earlier about how we don't understand each other, great book by Thomas Sowell called Conflict of Visions. Is one of the best books I've ever seen on understanding the incredible philosophical juxtapositions of the left and the right and how they look at things so incredibly different. He explains why. I mean, there's something different almost in terms of the anatomy of liberals and conservatives. Almost. I'm not going quite that far, but the book gave me the clearest understanding as why they don't get along and why they probably never will get along.
Yeah, well, it's okay. We don't have to get along. We just need fewer of them.
You sound hateful, Kent Batman, but I agree with you. But yeah, we do need fewer of them. Kent Batman, he's with Vychem EcoFluids. They're a great company out there helping to make sure that businesses stay green, both economically and environmentally. And that's just it. I get tired of the kind of attitudes we hear from the left about conservatives and the environment. But we got children. We're looking forward to the grandchildren and great-grandchildren too. We want a healthy environment as well. I also want us to be free from terrorism. I like us to have our liberty as long as humanly possible. And unfortunately, that means coming up with a balanced approach when it comes to the environment and the economy.
Absolutely. And you can't take credit for the environmental accomplishments if you keep saying that the sky is falling. I mean, go down to the Houston Ship Channel and look at how much better it is now than it was 25 years ago.
Amen. I just think about it from when I first moved here in 1990, we ended up going by there, and that place was a disaster. And you couldn't go more than a few months without reading about some environmental disaster that took place in the channel, it seemed like, when we first moved here. We virtually never hear about those.
No, we don't. We don't see the tar balls on the beach we used to either.
That's right. That's true. That's a very good point. Kent Batman, Vychem EcoFluids, Vichem, EcoFluids.com. Every Tuesday here on The Price of Business, always bringing us great insight, information, and more. Stay tuned for more from here on The Price of Business right after these messages.
Mm-hmm.